Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Attracting Your Life. I'm your host, Maija, and we're coming to you live from BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And if you ever miss one of our shows, you can always find me on iHeart or Apple iTunes and just type in Attracting Your Life or my name, Maija Bradford, and the podcast, and then you will find the past shows. This is a great way to catch up, or if you were listening to the show and you're like, wait, what did they just say? You can always go back and listen. So that's a great feature that is offered. So I hope you guys had a great week. I know I did. It's always a joy to have you guys joining me again. And so we can talk about beautiful different modalities and different techniques to manifest things in your life and to understand how you are connected to the higher power, whatever you may call it, and to make things real and present in your life. So last week we talked about magic, which was really interesting because I really love to hear how the Kabbalah and the Torah and the Bible are all mixed together to something that is a secret type of modality. Yeah, I would call it a modality. And as I shared in last week's show, that while preparing for that show, I purchased the books, and within 2 weeks, I was able to manifest certain things from the chants and from the rituals that our guest talked about last week. So this week, we're going to talk about crystals, the fruit of the earth, and how beautiful and pleasant they are, here to nourish our mind, body, and soul, and even provide praise when no other being will. To open your mind's eye with the azurite and vibrate in your intuitive gifts, to become one with the snowflake obsidian and balance the yin and the yang energies of your body, to cleanse the deep within the soul with the master healer, the quartz, as it dissolves karmic seeds, each stone perfectly cosmically made, to serve and protect and bring delight to the one who's open to receive. My guest today is Judy Hall, and she's a successful mind, body, spirit author of over 40 books to her credit, including the million-selling books of Crystal Bibles, 1, 2, and 3. If you ever go to any crystal store, I'm sure you've seen these books because they use them as references for us to find what type of stone that we need or crystal. Judy was awarded in 2014 the Kindred Spirit MSB Personality of the Year, which is huge. And she has been a past life therapist and karmic astrologer for over 40 years, an internationally known author, psychic healer, broadcaster, and workshop leader. Her books have even been translated into 15 languages. She has been also appeared in the Watkins Review of one of the 100 most spiritual influential authors, which I think is amazing because they have people like Dalai Lama. I can't talk this morning. I'm sorry, you guys. But this is a high attribute. So I am so honored, and thank you, Judy, for coming onto the show to talk to us. How are you doing today?
My pleasure. I'm doing well.
That is very
Apart from a frog in my throat, which quite often appears, so we'll ignore it.
That is great. Well, let's just jump right into it. How did you become drawn to crystals in the first place?
It was something that was always there, really. People ask me this quite often, and I spent quite a time casting my mind back to when did I really realize that crystals existed. And it was like I've always known. I'm very much into past lives anyway, and so, I believe it's a skill that I brought with me. But as a very small child, I would be up in the English Lake District where you find crystals just lying on the ground. And I would pick them up with my grandfather, who encouraged me, take them home, love them, keep them in my bed. I didn't need to know what their properties were at that point. I just loved them for what they were. It was later on that I realized I was using them for healing and then began to look at the properties. Found there wasn't anything that really told me. And so I had to start gathering it together from my own experience and from what other people were experiencing. So that's how I came to write the Crystal Bible.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Because I always thought you were going to tell me that you went to school for, what is it called, like geology?
No. I mean, if I had my time over again, I think I probably would have done that.
Okay.
But it didn't occur to me at the time. I actually trained as a teacher and couldn't really cope with being in school. The curriculum wasn't what I wanted to share. That experience of teaching actually then helped me to run all the workshops. So nothing is ever lost. It always has a gift.
Okay, that really resonated with me. I'm getting goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that part, because I was a teacher myself, and I worked in an industry, or kind of still do, that doesn't resonate with me. And to hear that you just said that nothing is lost, that really spoke to me volumes. But yeah, so you were just drawn to it. And so through being drawn to it, you learned and you flourished through it, and you were able to teach all of us about all the wonderful things that crystals are available to us. And that's interesting that you said that your grandfather just kind of told you to kind of pick them up like a child, just kind of...
Yeah, I was about 2 when it was during the war. And I would spend a lot of time up in the Lake District with my grandparents. And I was just so excited. There were all these lovely, sparkly bits of rock. They weren't the sort of crystals people think of. They weren't like gemstones, but they were bits of rock. And that's what I still use.
Wow,
I'm never happier than when I'm up a mountain collecting bits of rock.
Wow, that's great. That's interesting how it was just natural, because for me, it was kind of natural too, how I became drawn to rocks and crystals. I was raised as a Catholic, and one of the scriptures is that Jesus said is that if you won't praise me, the stones will cry out and praise me. And that, I don't know, for some reason, that scripture just like jumped out of me, and I just started picking up stones and feeling the vibrations of just different things, and going to crystal shops and getting headaches and not understanding why I have headaches, So it was really interesting to see how that works. So what are the ways healing crystals work for our bodies? Can you kind of touch upon that?
Well, I think it's something that's really difficult without knowing all the scientific jargon, which I avoid. So what I say is that there's a resonance in the stones, an energy that vibrates with us. It's the right crystal for us.
Okay.
And I started out by putting crystals on birth chart. As an astrologer, I was reading charts, but reading from a distance.
Okay.
People weren't in front of me. And I would...
Judy, let's pick that up really. You're tying something up that I never even thought about with the the charts. So let's go on commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to pick this question up. You're listening to Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maisha. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maisha, and we're having the privilege to talk to Ms. Judy Hall about crystals and healing. And before the break, we were just kind of talking about how you found out that crystals were a healing tool, and you were saying that you put them on the astrology charts. Can you kind of pick up from where you left off? I appreciate you explaining that to us.
It was, looking back, it was a fascinating link to the past, because I would just have crystals around, and I would think, this chart needs whatever it was, say jasper or something, to balance the energies. When I went off to do an MA in cultural astronomy and astrology, my research was birthstones, and I discovered that healing connection went right back, was recognized in Babylonia, in Egypt, in Greece, and it really something, again, which I feel I was drawing on. But it's so easy to use someone's chart to radiate the energy to them. It's a connection that you don't have to be in front of someone. The crystals will do it for you. That's what I love about crystal healing. You can put stones on somebody, you can put them around them, you can make a grid, or you can use a photograph, and the energy will reach them. And we'd need to be quantum physicists to understand why, I think. But
I really don't want to go back to school, so I think I'm going to have to do a crash course and ask spirit energy to kind of send that energy, that information to me. But you mentioned that so how did you get into astrology?
That was really serendipity. Mm-hmm. I was in a psychic development class, and one of the people said, I'm running an astrology group for the local authority, but I'm one person short. Will you come along to make the number up? Oh, yeah, why not? And it fortunately was an intermediate course, because the first beginner's course had been all about calculations, and I really am hopeless at maths, wouldn't have been in the least interested in anything that had figures. But with the intermediate course, Bob, who was my lovely tutor, put this chart up on the board and said, "What do you make of it?" And out of my mouth came, "He was a soldier with the soul of a poet."
Wow.
And, you know, there was this, you can imagine, deadly hush for a moment. And the lovely Bob said, "Where did you get that from?" Now, I think if I'd had any other tutor, I would have finished astrology at that point, because they would have said, "What?" You know, Bob said, "Where'd you get that from?" And I said, "That's what the chart is telling me." I didn't even know what the symbols meant, but the feel of the chart was, and it turned out to be General Patton, who not only was a general in this present lifetime, but he recalled his past lives. He recalled being a soldier previously, and he also recalled being a poet. And so that boosted my confidence, if you like. And as soon as I could read charts, I started doing readings for people based on past lives. And that's where the crystals came in as well, to redress something that had happened in a past life, or to bring out a gift that a skill that someone had developed.
Wow, this is amazing. So you had no type of previous studies, and you were able to see that from the chart. That is amazing. So it is true that this past life karmic energy, I like how you kind of describe it in your book, which I was going to talk about later on, but I'm sorry, it's pulling in so much in this part of the conversation. In your book called Past Life Astrology and Patterns of the Past Karmic Connection, you talk about how our souls choose a particular time, place to come in to kind of deal with issues that we had from our past life and carry on gifts that we had developed from our past life. So are you saying that this was like a gift that you already had from your past life? Astrology.
Yes. And I must have done several thousand past life regressions with people now. I was very fortunate at the same time as I was learning astrology to meet Christine Hartley, who was Dion Fortune's literary agent and also her magical working colleague. And Christine taught me a great deal about past life, focusing what I was seeing, because I was seeing it randomly. Okay. So I'd look at somebody and their head would disappear and another head would appear, and that was not always convenient, you can imagine. So Christine taught me to focus it, and I sort of fell into doing past life regressions because somebody came to see me about doing a workshop and there was somebody else there, and he half regressed her, and when she resisted, he just got up and left, and I was left with somebody in the most terrible trauma.
Oh, wow.
So again, you know, it was one of those things that open your mouth and trust it, and out it comes. And of course now I do lots of workshops like that, but I use crystals to assist, because they just make it so much easier, not only to access the memories, but to heal the traumas and bring out the gifts. In fact, I'm doing one in a couple of weeks' time. You know, they're ongoing.
And you are in the UK, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of drawn to certain questions. And one thing so can people join your courses online?
Not yet. It's something that I really would like to offer, but I have a habit of crashing computers. Many psychics do. The village internet here doesn't support it anyway, and I've been looking for some time for someone to come up and say, I can facilitate that, so that we could actually do live workshops where people who were with me were interacting with people who were on their computers. I really feel that kind of interaction would enhance it. So I have put it out to the universe that this is what I want to do, and I'm waiting for the universe to respond.
Well, we're going to talk, because I may have somebody I might want to introduce you to on that, but it's amazing how you just said that the energy can crash the internet.
Oh, yes.
And that's normal. So let's go to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about different types of shapes of crystals. You listen to Attracting Your Life. I'm your host, Maija, and stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, we were talking about just how the energy vibration, and we're talking to Judy Hall, and you're listening to Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maija. And something that most people may not know is that even for me, when I do readings and I try to do them online, it becomes distorted, or I tell people they can't record, and some people do try to record, and they come back and they say, hey, I did a recording. I know you told me not to, but your voice, I can't understand anything. I was like, yes, it's the energy. So I'm glad that you said it too, because some people think I'm exaggerating when I say you can't record me, or, we may get disconnected. It's because the frequency of the infinite void coming through to this realm to pass on energy. Because for me, I don't say that it's my gift. It's actually God's source energy just kind of coming through me to share information. And that's a powerful thing. So I know that wasn't part of our flow, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize that. So let's talk about different shapes, and do they matter in the healing process when we are picking out a crystal? So let's talk about points. I know I've seen point type of crystals. Is that a particular type of healing crystal?
Yes, you can either use points or shaped crystals. And points tend to be natural, although they can be artificially shaped. And they're really useful when you want to draw off energy, because you point it out from the body. And when you want, or a grid, when you want to draw it in, you turn it round and point the point in. So it cleans and it energizes a grid or a body.
Got it. And how about spheres?
That radiates energy equally in all directions, so it smooths the flow of energy. So if you've got a house, for instance, where you've got a long, long corridor, and the energy just rushes down it, if you put a sphere halfway down, it calms the energy. Very useful.
Got it. I know I used to keep one on my desk at work just to kind of radiate in the office, and I can understand that in the corridor too. How about a cube?
That consolidates energy, and it anchors intention, and it grounds the energy. So if you get a naturally occurring square or cubic crystal, such as fluorite, it will draw off negative energy and transform it.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm sorry. I just never knew that. I mean, I would look at cubes and wonder, but I never picked that up. Okay. So it will pick up the negative energy, and then it will transform it or transmute it, or...
Yes.
Go ahead.
You use it to put energy back, which is at a different vibration, different frequency.
I'm sorry, I have to pause. So I'm a master Reiki teacher. So I use crystals when I'm doing Reiki as well. So this may be a particular shape that I could use to help draw the negative energy out. And so in the transforming, would it be best to cleanse the cube before I place it back in to put in?
I always do.
Got it. Okay, good.
You find some people who say, it'll clean it automatically. But if I've been using crystals in healing, I always clean them. So perhaps we can come back to that when we've done the shape.
Okay. Now, pyramid. What is it?
This is a great one. And, of course, it's something the ancient Egyptians knew. And a lot of other civilizations, it's now turning out, knew about crystals. They create energy, and they fountain it out at the top. Or you can use it around a space to protect the internal space. And in a grid, if you're making a grid, they make an excellent keystone, which stores up and then radiates the energy of the grid.
Okay. You keep referencing this grid, and I definitely want people to know that we're going to talk more about grid so you can understand this concept. So how about a heart?
A heart really represents the heart of either of a person or of a matter, of something. And so hearts hold love, radiate love, or they heal brokenheartedness.
Okay. That's good. I know this is more of a man-made shape, so I always was leery about it but I never kind of thought about it. It can help with broken hearts too. So, okay.
And
good.
You actually do, when you're out fossicking, pick up lots of naturally heart-shaped crystals. It's surprising how many nature does actually make.
Wow, really? Okay, I definitely need to go where you go. I'm in Chicago, the city. It's a hike for us to even go to Starved Rock, which is That's about 2 hours from where I'm at, but I love nature too. But how about clusters? That's something I see quite often.
Several points which are on a base. They're joined together at the bottom, and they radiate energy multidirectionally. So again, they're very good for keystones. But if you want to energize an area, if you put a crystal cluster, it will send its energy out. It'll clean it, clear it, re-energize it, whatever you need to do. And it's very good for manifesting if you're looking to manifest prosperity.
Oh, great. Okay. That's really good to know. And then how about tumbled stones?
Tumbled stones, just very gently shaped, and they're either sort of pebble-like, or you can get flat palm stones. And they're really good both for putting in the grids we're going to talk about later, but also to pop in your pocket, because one of the things you find if you're using crystals on a daily basis, as many crystal people do, you don't want to have a point that could get broken or chipped. And so the tumbled version will do the same work. It will have the same properties, but it's more robust. And if it's a palm stone, it's very soothing just to hold it. It's like a worry stone.
Yes.
Like worry beads. You just hold that.
Yes, I like those stones too. So how can one decide what type of crystal to use?
Well, you can look it up in a book. I always put this information in my book. But I really prefer, with all of this crystal work, to encourage people to use their intuition and to go for the first crystal they see. If you've got crystals laid out in front of you and you're drawn to one, that'll be the one. But the other thing that I always teach is finger dowsing, which, again, something that's in my books and on my website. But you literally only have to put the thumb and finger of one hand together and then link your others, and that pull, and it says yes or no.
Awesome. So let's go to commercial break. You're listening to Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maisha, and stay tuned for more. Welcome back, everyone. This is Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maisha. We're coming to you live from BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And before the break, we were just talking about finger dancing, and this is a technique to kind of help you to see if the crystal is for you. And if you didn't hear it completely, or you want to really go into understanding, you can always visit Judy's website to get more information, or one of her books. The encyclopedia books are really good about different techniques about that. So you keep mentioning a grid. So let's talk about what is a crystal grid and what can it do to help in manifesting something in your life.
Right. A grid is a layout of crystals, and most of them are based on sacred geometry principles that go way, way back. Again, it's something that I lay out in books such as the Crystal Grids book that I've just done. But you put them down with intention, and you really focus on what you wish to achieve, what outcome you're looking for. But then it's really important you let the crystals do their work, because crystals, I've discovered, are much cleverer than us. They know what we really need, what we may think we need. But just to give you an example of how grids can work, I've got a friend who actually wants to come over to the States more often and is trying to sell a house that has been left to us. I saw her yesterday and she said, we put a house grid out, friend staying with her, we put a house grid out this morning to sell the house quickly. We had a viewing this afternoon and it looks like the people are going to buy.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So that's the sort of thing, you choose the right crystals, you put them in with the right intention, and magic happens. And you can put them around somebody to help their healing, but you can just tuck them away in a corner once you've done them and leave them there to do their work.
Yes, you can.
I was going to say, I had my great-granddaughter here at the weekend, and she loves crystals. She's 4. And she put out a grid, a rainbow grid. She picked the stones herself, put them out on a lovely coloured Flower of Life baseboard I've got. And I said, oh, what's that for, Charlie? And she said, to make people happy.
Oh, that's sweet. So, that's very sweet.
Yeah, it's an instinctive thing in us, I think, in order to create a pattern and to be aware that radiate energy.
So I like the fact that you were saying that it's important to put the intentions and using the right crystals. And I do think that your encyclopedia book really helps in trying to help us pick out the right crystals to make these grids. And you just mentioned a book and that you said that you just finished. What was the name of the book?
Crystal Grids came out at the beginning of the year.
Oh, wow.
And it's got example grids for specific things along with basic layouts that you can use for whatever you need to do.
Oh, that's great.
And the crystals that you would do that with.
Oh, that is really great. Okay, that's good because I would actually go and try to find patterns on the websites, on different websites, but you're saying that all of this is here in this book called Crystal Grids. This is awesome.
It is. And
Great.
There are more in my Crystal Companion Grid book, which again uses crystals for all kinds of things. And I did a book called Earth Blessing because I wanted to do an earth healing book, and that has grid too. So they are very much a fundamental part of the crystal work that I do.
Awesome.
And I really want to share it. It's like people know about holding a crystal, putting it on their chakras, but they tend not often to know so much about making these patterns with them.
And they're beautiful to be added onto an altar. And I do crystal grids with my kids, and it's interesting, just like you were saying about your granddaughter. Childlike view is the most purest view, and I love to hear how my boys understand things. Actually, they ground me, give me different perspective on things, and I really appreciate how kids view things versus adults, or because we're tainted.
Yeah, kids' energy is pure, isn't it?
It is.
Their insight is. It hasn't had time to have what other people think stamped on it as well.
Right. So let's talk about cleansing the crystal and the importance of that. Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yes, it is essential before you use any crystal to clean it, because if it's been in a shop, it'll have picked up the energies of everybody that's held it. Mm-hmm. If it's been around your house, it will have been working. So you clean it. And for me, the quickest way to clean crystals is to use essences that have been made specially. I use petal tone essence, but I also just done a book on crystal essences and have put in my own, you can make this essence from clearing crystals kind of recipe. But you can run it under the tap, but I don't know about in America, but in England we have all sorts of nasties put into our water, like aluminium and fluoride.
Oh, we do too.
In order to do us good, in quotes. And I don't like putting those into crystals, so whenever I can, I take them to the sea, or I put them out in the rain. I use spring water. You can clean them that way, and then you put them out in the sun to recharge. But you can also use incense smoke. You can use sound. I often put my delicate crystals into brown rice overnight, and that soaks up all the yucky, gunky vibes. And then you compost the rice. Obviously, you don't eat it after that. But that's very effective. People use salt, but, salt can damage delicate crystals. You have to be very careful that you've really got them all out, all the little crystals, before you use the crystal again.
Because the salt, if it's if the stone is porous, right? You can't use salt.
Yeah, and it'll penetrate and it'll crack. But there are some crystals that you can't use water on. Selenite, that beautiful divine energy, divine light, frozen divine light, actually dissolves. I discovered that because I'd bought a beautiful sort of angel's wing or fish tail selenite. Went to a sacred spring, put it in the water, and by the time I took it out again, all the sharp edges had gone.
Oh, no. Oh, wow. Okay. So you have to be very careful about cleaning, but it's important. So we're going to go to another commercial break. You're listening to Attracting Your Life. I'm your host, Maija, and stay tuned as we talk to Judy Hall. Welcome back, everyone. This is Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maija. And before the break, we were talking about cleansing your stone. And one thing that I wanted to ask Judy is, how about moon cleaning? I know I sometimes put my stones out in a full moon. Is that something that you ever done, or have any kind of insight on that?
I do it more to recharge them.
Got it.
White stones love the moon, like selenite. Selenite actually means moon. Some of the more coloured crystals love the sun to recharge. But I've put them out many times with a ritualistic sort of feeling. It's difficult to explain until you do it, but it's like you're doing something really ancient. I mean, you probably feel that when you do it yourself.
Oh, yes. I do moon rituals. And so cleansing under the moon, under the sun, I do sun rituals. That's something that it's just part of, I don't know. I understand what you said about ritualistic. We do it as a family, and sometimes I invite people over, but it's very a sacred time for us.
Yes, and it sets up an intention.
Yes.
That somehow is, well, if I want to bring something into manifestation, I will often start that ritual at new moon and go through or lay a grid at new moon, and then at full moon, it's like it comes to fruition.
Yes.
And that whole cycle seems so natural, so sort of embedded in the earth.
It really is. It's a beautiful process. And unfortunately, it's something that is not taught. And I think that's why there's a lot of unbalance of energy within people, because they're going against the flow of nature in so many things that we do. And we're so bombarded with technology and all these different ways, like from our cell phone, our computer, internet. I mean, you can go on and on, that you sometimes need to stop. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm extremely electrosensitive. So all of that, as I said, I crash computers. So I did a crystal prescriptions book on EMF. And, looking at the research, I had found an English professor who'd been writing about the dangers of power lines and things like that since the 70s. But nobody was listening.
Wow, okay.
Time, all this information is out there, but nobody listens. And cell phones have a wonderful suggestion for shungite. Put shungite on your cell phone and it will do you far less damage.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing for EMF of all kinds. So I actually went to an art class, as it happened, sat next to somebody who worked for the people who made these things. Said, oh, yeah, we know what they do. We're looking for antidotes. Get a crystal. Because at that time I was using black tourmaline. I don't have a cell phone. Let's go there, because it makes me feel so ill. Black tourmaline, shungite, smoky quartz, anything like that around a source of EMF pollution, because it is pollution, destroys your cells, really helps. It really protects.
Yes. And you are very sensitive to this energy. And crystals is not your only, we talked about astrology, but you also talk about ways of protecting, psychic protection. Can we kind of talk about that? Because it's not only the energy that comes from the electronic magnetic through cell phones and computers, but there's also attacks that we're getting through people's negative energy or views about us. So can we talk about a little psychic protection?
We can. Again, I learn all this by having it happen to me. I know that if somebody is envious or jealous, I just want to share what I've learned. I don't want to be the queen of the crystals, but people think I do. So they project stuff onto me, and they think, oh, I could do that. And my answer is, well, go and do it. Don't send it to me. Yes. So over the years, I've had to learn about this. And one of the things that I've found is you need to protect your aura. And again, something like black tourmaline is so efficient. We've done a lot of experiments on workshops where people have sent negative thoughts to someone, and then they've held a black tourmaline or shungite, and they could no longer feel it. And so we know we can show empirically that this works. And I think with black tourmaline and with shungite, they soak up and they hold the energies. Shungite is formed of buckyball, and so it's like a sponge. Oh. But a lot of people are like a psychic sponge. It's like their aura has holes in it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if you put black tourmaline or you put shungite, or when I'm running workshops, I wear labradorite, which is a beautiful stone.
Labradorite? Okay.
Yeah, it's iridescent and it's just wonderful. But I wear that because that gives me what I call an interface. I can still be aware of what people are going through, what they're feeling, but it doesn't impinge on my energy field.
Oh, okay.
So it is so useful. And I was going to say the other thing that is a form of psychic attack is people who suck your energy.
Oh, yes,
they
leeches.
See that your energy is good and they think, I want some of that.
Yes.
Or they may be parents or lovers, friends. People do this unconsciously as well. Some of them do it deliberately. But for years, I thought that the solar plexus was where your energy got stolen from. The energy pirates got in there. I like to call them energy vampires because that's what they're doing there. They're sucking your lifeblood. And then I discovered that actually it was the spleen chakra under the left arm where these vampires put their hooks in. And it's like they have cords and they suck out the energy from under there. And the telltale sign is if you get a pain under your left arm, just sort of below the armpit.
Yes.
And I, as I always do, discovered this by having that pain. And perhaps after the break, we can talk a bit more about how you know about these things, how you recognize them.
Thank you. This is Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maija. And stay tuned more so we can understand how we can counterbalance these vampires, these leeches, energy vampires and leeches. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. This is Attracting Your Life, and I'm your host, Maija, and we have the honor and pleasure to talk to Miss Judy Hall. And before the break, we were talking about energy vampires and leeches, and you were talking about this pain that you may feel under your arm. So kind of just continue where you were leaving off, if you don't mind.
Well, I noticed at a point in my life that was quite traumatic that I'd suddenly developed this really quite sharp but a nagging pain under my arm. So I went to see a healer friend with another friend of mine who was having the same thing. We were both going through breakups. And he just laughed, which we thought was rather cruel of him, and said, your spleen chakras are wide open. And he said, you've got to disconnect. And it was like a light bulb going on. You know, that feeling of, suddenly I understand. Symptoms, apart from having the pain, are if you're in someone's presence, you leave them and your energy's gone.
Yes.
It feels like somebody's pulled the plug. So I use green aventurine, which is and this is on my web several times, which is a really good crystal to clear that chakra out, to get all these hooks out, and then it seals it. And it, for women, it's quite easy because you can tuck them into your bra. I tell men that they're really deprived by not wearing a bra because they can't put their crystals in. It's where I put all mine for protection when I go through X-ray machines and everything. I can't tell you how many airport-side security systems are. You can imagine. But this is what you need to do. You need to clear it out and protect it. And it's the same with the whole psychic protection thing. If you're aware of it, if you feel like you're walking through treacle, you know, you can't crawl up the stairs, your energy's gone, you're constantly feeling ill, wear a crystal, block it out. And quite simple when you understand it. I've done several books on psychic protection. Every time I just think I've said everything there is to say, along comes something else that I have to learn about, so I write another one. And I think Good Vibrations is one of the most comprehensive, as well as the one in the Crystal Prescription series. That series has gone from being, what crystal do I use for what, to what crystal do I use in very specific circumstances and how can I attune it to me.
What series is this?
Crystal Prescription.
And that's on your website?
The details are on my website. You can buy it through any good bookshop or Amazon. Okay. Very easy.
All right.
It's available in the States.
Okay, I definitely will look at that. Another thing I do is I put myself in a tube of light. And, you know, from under my feet all the way up to the crown of my head, it's just envisioning myself being in a complete tube of light. That kind of helps. Or something that I learned, and I kind of taught my kids, is like the middle pillar, which is a Kabbalic kind of process of starting from the crown of your head and going through to the bottom of your feet. But this is such a wealth of information, Judy. I feel, I don't know how do I say this, but I wish I could go to the UK quite often because I know you have a lot of courses and a lot of seminars. But for people who are here in the United States and can't get to the United Kingdom, what else do you have to offer besides the books? And they're great. How are other ways that people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best way to connect is to join my crystal community, which is online. It's a small monthly fee, but there are over 500,000 words on there about all these topics and so much more. And we have a closed Facebook page where the members can share their information as well. It's attracted so many people who know so much about crystals.
Yes.
It's wonderful because everybody is so generous.
Yes, and it's called Crystal Community?
Yes, and it's on my website.
On the website. And your website is, can you give that to
www.judyhall.co.uk.
Yes. And it was an honor and a privilege to talk to you and to have you on the show. And when I was trying to get you on the show, one thing I had to do is I really had to send out love. And so I would like to honor you back and just take a moment to just send you love, energy, and peace. And I am honored, and I hope that you continue this basically ministry that you're doing. And thank you for it, the information and how you share information. Thank you again. It was a privilege.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
You're listening to Attracting Your Life. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will talk next week.